Hello my dear students, for example, I will take a volatile solution A in a beaker. Only one component which is present, the other one is not present. Minimum it can be P1 naught, maximum it can be P2 naught. We'll solve some of the numericals. I hope you have understood how to solve both the problems. Hello my dear students, welcome back to the third session on the chapter Solutions. So, last class we had learnt about Henry's law as well as the applications of Henry's law. Today we shall learn about vapor pressure of liquid-liquid solution. What do you mean by liquid-liquid solution? It means that the solute also is a liquid and the solvent also is a liquid. Now what is the meaning of the word vapor pressure? Now for example, I will take a volatile solution A in a beaker. It is covered, okay. Now here these particles, I told you it is a volatile liquid, that means the particles in the solution can evaporate and go to the vapor phase. Now if these particles in the vapor phase exert pressure on the surface of the solution, that pressure is called as vapor pressure. Okay, so when two volatile liquids are taken in a closed vessel, both the components would evaporate and eventually equilibrium would be established between the vapor phase and the liquid phase. So I have taken one solution, solution A. Now the vapor pressure is of only the particles of solution A, so we call it as vapor pressure of the pure component. Only one component is there here. I am taking one more solution which is solution B. It may be a little less volatile compared to solution A, but still it is volatile and the particles have evaporated and these particles in the vapor phase exert pressure which is called as the vapor pressure. Now if I mix these two, solution A and solution B, I have mixed both the solution A and solution B, then I have the particles of both solution A and solution B in the vapor phase. Correct? And there is an equilibrium between the particles in the solution phase and the particles in the vapor phase. There is an equilibrium between the particles in the solution phase as well as in the vapor phase. Okay? That is about the vapor pressure of the liquid-liquid solutions in which both the solutions are volatile. We are considering both the components of this solution to be volatile. Okay. Going further, we will be learning about Raoult's law. French chemist F.M. Raoult in 1886 gave a relation between partial pressure of the components in the vapor phase to the mole fraction of the components in the solution phase, which we call it as Raoult's law. So what is Raoult's law? It is specially for volatile liquids, okay, in which the components, both the components are volatile. Only for that we are giving Raoult's law. Okay, it states that the partial vapor pressure of each component in solution is directly proportional to its mole fraction. That means if I have two components, two particles I have, okay, component 1, component 2, both are volatile. Now their particles, as they are volatile, they will go into the vapor phase. Correct? Now their pressure, I will take it as P1 and P2. P1 is the partial pressure of component 1, P2 is the partial pressure of component 2, and their mole fraction, what is it? Mole fraction in the solution phase, I will take it as X1 and X2. Okay, mole fraction of component 1, mole fraction of component 2. Then he told that the partial pressure is directly proportional to its mole fraction. Partial pressure in the vapor phase is directly proportional to the mole fraction in the solution phase, in which both the components are volatile. Okay, so what did he tell? Partial vapor pressure is directly proportional to the mole fraction. So to remove the proportionality, we have put P1 naught. What do you mean by P1 naught? P1 naught is a vapor pressure of pure component 1. That is, before mixing, if I had taken only component 1, particles of only component 1 is present here, and they will evaporate and go into the vapor phase, and they will exert some pressure, correct? No? So the pressure is called as P1 naught. Okay, so what is P1 naught? It's a vapor pressure of the pure component 1. Okay, if I take only component 2, then it is P2 naught. So if I put this naught above, okay, then it is the vapor pressure of the pure component. Is it clear? So similarly, if I put the same relation for component 2, I'll get P2 is equal to P2 naught by X2. This is the partial pressure of the component 2, mole fraction of the component 2, and the vapor pressure of the pure component 2. Okay, so P2 represents the vapor pressure of the pure component, and of course everything should be under same temperature. Okay, according to Dalton's law, you all have studied in your first year, what is total pressure? Total pressure is the sum of the partial pressure of all the gases which is present. So in the vapor phase now, I have two components, correct? I have component 1, component 2 in the vapor phase. I have component 1 and component 2 in the solution phase. This is my solution phase, in which both the component is present and they have evaporated into the vapor phase. Here I have both the components, correct? So in this phase I have two components or two partial pressures are there, which is that P1 and P2. So Dalton tells that the total pressure is the sum of the partial pressures of the gases which is present. So we have two partial pressures of two components, that is P1 and P2, which is, if I add up, I'll get total pressure. This is according to Dalton's law, correct? Now substituting the value of P1 and P2 in this particular equation, that is P total is equal to, what is P1? I got it as P1 naught x1, so I have substituted that. What is P2? P2 is P2 naught x2, I have substituted that. Now also remember, in the first session when I was explaining about mole fraction, I told you if there are many components, how many ever components let the particular solution have, if you add the mole fractions, that is equal to unity. For binary solution, now in this solution how many things I have? I have two components. Two components are present. So mole fraction of component 1, mole fraction of component 2. If I add the mole fractions, that should be equal to 1. Correct? Now I can also write as x1 is equal to 1 minus x2. So the same thing, if I substitute here, what is x1? It is 1 minus x2. So I have substituted x1 with 1 minus x2 P1 naught plus x2 P2 naught. Then if I multiply now, 1 into P1 naught is equal to P1 naught minus, because minus I have, minus P1 naught x2 plus I have got x2 P2 naught. Now among these two, what is common? x2 and x2 is common, so I have taken that out, x2, and I have written it as P2 naught minus P1 naught plus P1 naught. Okay, so P total is what? Therefore I can write it as P total is equal to P1 naught plus x2 P2 naught minus P1 naught. Correct? This is the equation I have got from Rolle's law. What is it? P total is equal to P1 naught plus x2 into P2 naught minus P1 naught. Now what am I going to understand from this particular equation of Rolle's law? That is, here first one is total vapor pressure over the solution can be related to the mole fraction of any one component. Am I right? I'll write the equation again. So it is P total is equal to P1 naught plus x2 into P2 naught minus P1 naught. So what they are telling, the total pressure can be related to the mole fraction of any one component, correct? No, I have only x2 here. Do I have x1 here? No. So the total pressure is related to mole fraction of any one component. I need not know the mole fraction of both the components. One component if I know also, I can write it. Correct? So that is the first conclusion. Second one, the total vapor pressure over the solution varies linearly with mole fraction of component 2. Correct? The total pressure is directly proportional to the mole fraction. So it is varying linearly. So if this increase, the other one also should increase. So it is varying linearly. Okay? That is the second conclusion. The third one is, depending on the vapor pressures of the pure component 1 and 2, total pressure over the solution decreases or increases with the increase of mole fraction of component 1. So what they are telling is, depending on the vapor pressures of the pure component, the total pressure can increase or decrease depending on the component 1 or it can be component 2. Okay, so that is the conclusion which we are getting from this particular equation. Now if we plot a graph based on this, how are we going to get? It is like this. If we take pressure, partial pressure on y-axis, and I have taken the mole fraction on the x-axis. For example, I will take x2. x2 is equal to 0 here. Maximum x2 is equal to 1 it can be. Why? Because remember, x1 plus x2 is equal to 1. Okay, so maximum, that means when x2 is equal to 1, x1 is almost 0. That means the partial pressure is only of the pure component. There is no other component at all. So when x2 is equal to 1, what does it mean? It is only one component which is present, the other one is not present, or I can tell the partial pressure is of only one component, the other component partial pressure is not there at all. Okay, so here as the mole fraction increases, partial pressure increases. So as we go, you will get a straight line, and at this point, okay, at this point when x2 is equal to 1, this partial pressure is, call it as P2 naught. Correct? So what is P2 naught? When x2 is equal to 1, that means only one component is there. It is the partial pressure of only one component, that is pure component. Same way, for example, I draw like this, okay, in which this x1 is equal to 0, x1 is equal to 1, and this is the partial pressure of P1. So as according to Rolle's law, as the pressure is increasing, the mole fraction also should increase, and I am going to get a graph like this. And at this point, whatever I get the pressure, it is P1 naught. Correct? Now if I merge these two, I am going to get a graph something like this. Here you can see. So here x-axis is the same thing. Okay, here we have taken x2 is 0 to 1 and x1 from the other end 0 to 1. So when I take x2 0 to 1, see here, as the pressure is increasing, the P2 is going on increasing. At one point it will go and reach where x2 is equal to 1, it is only P2 naught, that is the partial pressure of the pure component 2. Same way, when I am taking x1, as the x1 mole fraction is going on increasing to 1, even P1 goes on increasing, I will get the straight line. At this point we call it as P1 naught, that is the pressure of the pure component 1. Okay, now if I join P1 naught and P2 naught, that will be P total. Your total pressure will be somewhere in between these two. P total is P1 plus P2. Okay, so I'll read this for y'all. A plot of P1 and P2 versus the mole fraction x1 and x2 if for a solution gives a linear plot as we have shown. It's a linear plot, that is, as we are increasing the mole fraction, the partial pressure also is going on increasing. It's a linear plot. Okay, these lines 1 and 2 pass through the point and respectively when x1 and x2 equal unity. That is, we can take it is 0 to 1 alone because x1 plus x2 is equal to 1. Okay. Similarly, line 3 where of P total versus x2, that is, this line is for what? P total versus x2. Okay. In this, what you get? That is also linear. Okay, and you can observe the minimum value of P total is P1 naught and the maximum value is P2 naught, assuming that component 1 is less volatile than component 2. Now what you can understand, P total minimum value can be P1 naught and the maximum value can be P2 naught. In this, from this graph you can understand one more thing. Component 1 is less volatile, that's why its partial pressure in the pure component also is lesser compared to P2 naught because the partial pressure of the pure component 2 is higher than the first component. So your total pressure should be between these two values. Okay, minimum it can be P1 naught, maximum it can be P2 naught. So I hope you have understood. First time you are coming across such graphs in chemistry. Wherever necessary, please pause the video, listen carefully to understand it better. Okay, so that is about Rolle's law. Rolle's law states that the partial pressure of the components in the vapor phase is directly proportional to the mole fraction of the components in the solution phase in which both the liquids are volatile in nature. Okay, so I hope you have understood. Moving forward, now till now I was talking about the solutions. I have two components, component 1 and component 2 in the liquid phase, and I have some particles in the vapor phase because the liquid is volatile. Correct? Now here I am going to explain about the composition of the vapor phase. Okay, what is it? The composition of the vapor phase in equilibrium with the solution is determined by partial pressure of the components. What is the meaning of this? We'll see. Now, if Y1 and Y2 are the mole fractions of components 1 and 2 respectively in the vapor phase, till now what did I take? The component 1 and 2 mole fraction is x1 and x2. In which phase? In the solution phase. Now I am talking only about the vapor phase. If I want to find out the composition here, how do I get it? Now for example, I have taken the mole fraction of the both the components is y1 and y2. Mole fraction of both the components in the vapor phase. I am not talking anything about the solution phase. I am talking only about the vapor phase now. Okay. So the mole fraction of the components in the vapor phase is y1 and y2. Then according to Dalton's law of partial pressure is mole fraction into total pressure. So partial pressure of P1 in the vapor phase is equal to mole fraction in the vapor phase into total pressure. So P2 is what? Mole fraction in the vapor phase, that is Y2 into P total. So in general I can tell, according to Dalton's law, partial pressure is equal to mole fraction in the vapor phase into total pressure. So I hope you understood about the composition of the components in the vapor phase in liquid solutions. Okay, next we will be learning about vapor pressure of the solution of solid in a liquid. I explained to you all about the solubility of a solid in a liquid. Now here we are going to learn about the vapor pressure of the solution when a solid is dissolved in a liquid. So here, if it is a pure solvent, as I told you, there is no solute particles at all, only one particular solvent is there. All the surface you can see, it is covered by only the solvent particles. Easily they can escape and they can go into the vapor phase if it is a volatile liquid. Correct? And these particles will exert some pressure which is called as the vapor pressure. Now, if I add a solute to this, I have added a solute to a liquid and the solute is non-volatile. Okay, the solute which is added is non-volatile. So what happens is, now the surface area if you consider, you can see there are particles of solute also on the surface and the solute is non-volatile. So that is covering the solvent particles which is there below it, and the surface area for vaporizing decreases. Correct? So for evaporation, what surface area was available for pure solvent compared to when solute is added, it decreased, because of which vapor pressure also decreases. Because the surface area is covered by the solute particles also there, what happens? The vapor pressure decreased when a non-volatile solute is added to a volatile solvent to form the solution. So I hope you have understood about the vapor pressure of solutions of solid in a liquid. Okay, now we'll continue this to see about how Rolle's law can be applied here. Here in a binary solution, okay, let us consider a binary solution. Solvent is denoted as 1 and solute is denoted as 2. When solute is non-volatile, only the solvent is present in the vapor phase and contributes to the vapor pressure. Correct? The solute is non-volatile. So of course in vapor phase what do you have? You have only the particles of the solvent. You don't have the solute particles in the vapor phase. So vapor pressure is only because of the solvent particles. Am I right? Okay, so let us consider P1 be the vapor pressure of the solvent and X1 be the mole fraction and P1 not be the vapor pressure of the pure solvent, just like how we considered for Rolle's law. So what we are considering, if this is my solution in which I have component 1 and 2, 2 is non-volatile, which is the solute. Okay, it is solute. Okay, only my component 1 particles is there in the vapor phase. So the partial pressure of this is P1, mole fraction of this is X1. Okay, and the P1 naught is the vapor pressure of the pure solvent. Okay, then according to Rolle's law, P1 is directly proportional to X1, and if we remove the proportionality, we put a constant P1 naught. So the proportionality constant is equal to the vapor pressure of the pure solvent P1 naught. A plot between the vapor pressure and the mole fraction is linear. You can see we have only one solvent which is vaporizing. So of course from 0 to 1, mole fraction of the solvent I have taken on the x-axis, vapor pressure is taken on the y-axis, and it will be linear. It will go as a straight line, and where it reaches 1 we call it as vapor pressure of the pure solvent. So it is very easy because we have only one solvent which is going into the vapor phase. So I hope you have understood about it. We'll solve some of the numericals here. First one, I shall just read the question for you all. We'll understand what is given for us in the question. If N2 gas is bubbled through water at 293 Kelvin, how many millimoles of nitrogen gas would dissolve in 1 liter of water? Okay, assume that nitrogen exerts a partial pressure of 0.987 bar given that Henry's constant for nitrogen at 293 Kelvin is 76.48 kilobar. Okay, so what is given? They have told the partial pressure of nitrogen Pn2 is 0.987 bar. Okay, and they have also given Henry's constant Kh for nitrogen at same temperature, so don't bother about temperature, it is 293 Kelvin. Okay, so it is 76.4 kilobar. Okay, now what do I have to find out? How many millimoles of nitrogen can dissolve in 1 liter of water at that particular temperature? So how do we solve this? Now, according to Henry's law, we know that P is equal to KHX. So here nitrogen gas I have, so I'll write Pn2 and mole fraction of N2. Okay, now I want to find out the mole fraction. I already know the partial pressure, it's given. I know what is Henry's law constant, so I can get the mole fraction of nitrogen. So mole fraction of nitrogen is partial pressure by Kh of nitrogen. Partial pressure is 0.987 bar and Kh is 76.48. Kilo means 10 to the power 3 bar. Okay, so if I solve this, I'll get the answer as 1.29 into 10 to the power minus 5. Okay, now what did I get? I got the mole fraction. Now I got the mole fraction, but I have to find out how many millimoles of nitrogen is dissolving in 1 liter of water. So I have to find the number of moles here. Okay, so mole fraction of nitrogen is nothing but number of moles of nitrogen divided by number of moles of nitrogen plus number of moles of water. Okay, now number of moles of nitrogen I am supposed to find out. Mole fraction I found out already, but I have to find out even the number of moles of water which is present. But I know there is 1 liter of water. Can I find the number of moles of water? Of course we can find out. Okay, that is number of moles of water is mass of water by molecular mass of water. Correct? What is mass of water? 1 liter of water has 1000 ml. 1 ml weighs 1 gram. So 1000 ml will weigh 1000 grams. So it is mass is 1000 divided by molecular mass of water is 18 H2O. Oxygen is 16 plus 2 hydrogen. It is equal to 18. Correct? So if I do this, I'll get the answer as 55.55 moles. So number of moles of water is 55.55. Now, but in my denominator, if you observe, I have got even number of moles of nitrogen. Then how will I solve this? So compared to number of moles of water, number of moles of nitrogen is very less. So we are going to neglect it. Okay, we'll be writing it as NH2 is very less compared to number of moles of water. Therefore, NH2 plus NH2O is approximately equal to 55.55. I am going to consider and I am going to substitute in the formula above. So, N2 is equal to NH2 by NH2O I am going to write, which is nothing but what is the mole fraction of nitrogen? It is 1.29 into 10 to the power minus 5 is equal to number of moles of nitrogen you are supposed to find out. This is 55.55. Okay, so number of moles of nitrogen is equal to 1.29 into 10 to the power minus 5 into 55.55. So if I solve this, I am going to get it as 71.66 into 10 to the power minus 5 moles But see the question they are asked in which one? Millimoles. Milli means what? 10 to the power minus 3. So what we are going to do is, I'll move 2 points. This becomes 10 to the power minus 3. I'll write it as 0.716 millimoles. Okay, so this is the answer for this particular problem. I hope you have understood how to solve. Wherever necessary, please pause the video and work it out by yourself. Okay, so we'll have to solve one more problem today. We'll see the next numerical. Okay, vapor pressure of chloroform and dichloromethane at 298 Kelvin are 200 milligrams of mercury and 415 millimeters of mercury respectively. So what they have given? They have given us the vapor pressure of the pure components chloroform and dichloromethane. Okay, now what are we supposed to calculate? We are supposed to calculate the vapor pressure of the solution, that is the vapor pressure of the solution which is prepared by mixing both of this. Mixing how much? 25.5 grams of chloroform and 40 grams of dichloromethane. That is the first question. The second question is, calculate the mole fraction of each component in the vapor phase. You have to calculate the mole fraction of the component in the vapor phase you are supposed to calculate. Okay, so we'll first calculate the first part of the question. So the first part of the question 1 I shall solve. See, I want P total. I have to calculate P total, which is equal to P1 naught x1 plus P2 naught x2. So from this what do I get to know is, I need to know the mole fractions of both and the partial pressure of the pure components. Correct? Partial pressure of the pure components I have got, but mole fractions I do not have. But I have all the data to calculate the mole fractions of chloroform and dichloromethane. So first I will calculate. What do you mean by mole fraction? Mole fraction, you require the number of moles. So first step is to calculate the number of moles. So molecular mass, I shall calculate first the molecular mass. Molecular mass of CHCl3 and molecular mass of CH2Cl2. Okay, so here I have one carbon, so 12 plus 1 plus 35.5 into 3. Okay, which is equal to 119.5. Here it is 12 plus 2 plus 35.5 into 2, which is equal to 85. Okay, so I've got the molecular mass. Now number of moles. Number of moles of CHCl3 and number of moles of CH2Cl2. Both I shall calculate. It is mass by molecular mass. First chloroform. From my question, I will see chloroform how many grams we have taken. It is 25.5 grams. So 25.5 divided by what is the molecular mass? 119.5, which is equal to 0.213 moles. Okay, here for dichloromethane, mass by molecular mass, I'm not writing the formula. Mass is 40 grams, so 40 divided by molecular mass is 85, which is equal to 0.47. Okay, now we have got the number of moles of the two components, that is chloroform and dichloromethane. Also you got the molecular mass. Of course, molecular mass, without that we cannot calculate the number of moles. Now I'll calculate the mole fraction of one component. I'll take dichloromethane. Okay, mole fraction of CH2Cl2 is equal to number of moles of CH2Cl2 by number of moles of CH2Cl2 plus number of moles of CHCl3, that is chloroform. I am mixing both. That's the reason it's 0.47 divided by 0.47 plus 0.213, which if I solve, I am going to get the answer as 0.688. Okay, so this is the mole fraction of dichloromethane. But I know if I add dichloromethane mole fraction and the mole fraction of chloroform, it is equal to 1. So I'll write like this: mole fraction of CHCl3 plus mole fraction of CH2Cl2 is equal to 1. Therefore, mole fraction of CHCl3, that is chloroform, is equal to 1 minus mole fraction of CH2Cl2, which is equal to 1 minus 0.688, which is equal to 0.312. So now I have got the mole fractions of both the components. Now I shall solve the vapor pressure when I mix both the components. Okay. So here I shall write again. I got P total is equal to P1 naught x1 plus P2 naught x2, where I am going to take 1 as chloroform, 2 as dichloromethane. So, or I can write it full. If you are getting confused, I can write this is for chloroform CHCl3, okay, mole fraction of CHCl3 plus partial pressure of CH2Cl2 and mole fraction of CH2Cl2. Okay, so what is the partial pressure? 200 for chloroform into 0.312 plus here it is 415 into 0.688. So if you solve this, you're going to get the answer as 347.92. 347.92 mm of mercury. Now this is the first part of the question. The second part of the question was to find out the composition or mole fraction in the vapor phase. Correct? This is the first part of the question. Second part of the question is calculate the mole fraction in the vapor phase for these components. So what is the formula I will use for the second part of the question? This is the first part of the question. The second part of the question, they have asked us to calculate the mole fraction of the components in the vapor phase. For that, we have the formula. This is the second part. So 2, I have the formula partial pressure is equal to mole fraction in the vapor phase into total pressure. Correct? So I want to calculate what? Mole fraction. So I have to calculate the mole fraction. So mole fraction of CHCl3 is equal to, okay, partial pressure of CHCl3 by total pressure. Okay. So here partial pressure of CHCl3 is what? It is the mole fraction into the, I will substitute here, mole fraction of CHCl3 into partial pressure of the pure component divided by P total. Now this we have already calculated. What is the mole fraction of chloroform? Mole fraction of chloroform I have written here 0.312 and into what is the partial pressure of pure chloroform? It is 200. So it is 200 divided by what is the total pressure when I mixed both? It is 347.92. So now this will be equal to 285.52 divided by 347.92, which will be equal to 0.8206. So this is the mole fraction of chloroform in the vapor phase. Now I have to also find out for dichloromethane. How will I get for dichloromethane? I have to just minus this, I'll get it for the dichloromethane. That is mole fraction of CH2Cl2 is equal to 1 minus mole fraction of CHCl3, which will be equal to 1 minus 0.8206, which is equal to 0.1794. So I hope you have understood the problem. There were two parts. First part, I had to find out the total pressure when dichloromethane and chloroform was mixed. So first we had to find out the mole fraction in which mass of chloroform and dichloromethane was given. So mass by molecular mass, I got the number of moles. After getting the number of moles, I calculated the mole fraction of dichloromethane as well as chloroform. Then multiply with the pure components, you will get the answer for the total pressure as 347.92. Later they had asked us to find the mole fraction in the vapor phase for both the components. So that is nothing but partial pressure is equal to mole fraction into total pressure. Mole fraction I want, so it is partial pressure by total pressure. Partial pressure is what? It is mole fraction into partial pressure of the pure component. So we have got first for chloroform, 1 minus chloroform, I will get the mole fraction for dichloromethane. So these the answers. I hope you have understood how to solve both the problems. Okay, so next class we'll be learning about ideal and non-ideal solution and about azeotrope. So hope you have understood today's class. Thank you, my dear children. Stay focused, stay tuned.